Hello, peeps. My name is Corin, and welcome to Corin's Library. Today, I'm going to be continuing where we left off on iPhone Academy. Before we get started, if you like the podcast, make sure to give it a follow or subscribe to the channel that you're seeing this on. Please remember that I do not own iPhone Academy. All rights belong to Emily Ross and Christian Faith Publishing. They were on last episode, you can find the links to the Amazon and Barnes & Noble page in the description of this episode. Without further ado, let's get started on Chapter 2, Innocent... Maybe. Azariel Apartments. Apartment 51, Friday, 17:30 hours. That's kinda creepy, but I don't know what you really want me to do, Miles said, fiddling with Michael's cross-charm. I didn't know anybody else to tell, I admitted. He scrolled through the photos on my phone as I retold the story. I would have told Kaylani, but she underreacts sometimes. Yeah, she does, he agreed. Miles had just finished his sophomore year and went to a science academy downtown. I had always found it amusing that he went there, since he'd never liked science. From what our parents said, it was very expensive to send him to the school. My family was proud that he'd been accepted and wanted to give him the best education. He usually stayed on campus, which was rare for high schools in our area. Nonetheless, he would come home sometimes, and one of those times was today. He went to summer school alongside regular school, and summer school started next week. That meant that he'd be living at home until Monday, and I could tell him in person about everything that happened earlier. Oh, I dropped my book bag that had hung over my shoulder all day. Fishing between books, I found the note buried at the bottom. Miles set the cross down at his desk before receiving the note and examining it carefully. Really quickly, I'd like to state that I apologize about the fact that I sound congested. That's because I am. So if I sound congested, it's just because of that. So I apologize. Where did you say your friend was going? Miles asked. California. How did you even get in the house? The door wasn't locked, I called out loud. I went inside and everything was gone. The windows were locked shut, and the door wasn't. Yeah. He handed the note back to me and picked at his hair the same way he did whenever he was focused. I decided it might be best to give him some space to think, so I looked around his room. The other side of the room, Miles' soccer trophies sat on a shelf above his cluttered bed. His sheets were never laid properly, but he hadn't been back in a while to clean his room. Outside the window beneath the shelf, I could see cars driving in front of Alexis's house. I squinted my eyes to see Alexis, my old classmate, heading toward her house. Why was she coming back so late? I reasoned with myself that I should mind my own business, and sat down on the bed before slitting the note on the pillow next to me. My feet rhythmically tapped on the rug until Miles finally spoke. Up. Maybe you should just call your friend and see how he's doing, Miles suggested. I did since I got back. 4 times. I'm worried. Miles sighed and gazed out the window closest to him. Wouldn't you know how to, track him or something? I asked, approaching the desk Miles sat at. What makes you think that? He turned to face me. Well, they teach you computer science at school, don't they? I'm sure you've learned coding or hacking or stuff like that. I'm not a stalker, and even if I did know how to do things like that, I wouldn't. He's fine, trust me. You just need some air. I hated that Miles didn't see things the way I did, but gave in regardless. Miles helped me get my things, and I stepped out into the hallway, closing the door behind me. Temmie was running around the living area when I entered, and Mom was still doing work. Temmie barked after seeing me and then rushed to the door. She scratched at it, and Mom looked up at me. Take Temmie out, please, she said. I grabbed the leash from the couch next to Mom and placed it on Temmie before going into the hallway. The teenagers were still talking and laughing, and some of them greeted me as I passed by. After reaching the main floor, Temmie started to pull against the leash, leading me outside. We walked to the bench off the tower block premises. I dropped Temmie's leash to let her roam freely while I checked my phone and scrolled back through the pictures from earlier that day. Maybe I should call the number from the truck. accidentally muted the recording. Sorry, y'all. My hand swiped to another app and dialed the number from the picture. I held my phone to my ear while Tummy ran back and sat by my feet. The phone stopped ringing and was silent for a few seconds. Hello. Thank you for calling Cash Yell's Moving Service. We are out of service today. Please try again later. I cringed at the loud talking in my ear before the answering machine hung up. Hey, Jesse. When I looked up, Alexis was approaching me from her house across the street. She changed out of her school uniform and seemed happier than ever. Hi, Alexis, I greeted as she took a seat next to me. I was about to head down to the park, she told me. Want to come? Some other girls would be there as well. I'm good. I gotta look at some things. What things? Confidential. She raised an eyebrow and turned to me. Only spies say stuff like that. I am a spy. I tried to keep a straight face to lie. When Alexis started to laugh, so did I. That's a really good poker face, she laughed. Like you'd be a spy. I could if I wanted. I defended myself. She noticed me sitting up and quickly agreed. No, I didn't mean it like that. I'd never be a spy either. Too much life or death stuff. I nodded in agreement. I'm actually just trying to call this number. I turned the phone to her, and she read the contact name. Trying to, she implored. What's stopping you? Are you moving or something? I don't want my only neighbor from school to go. I'm not moving, I promised. Glad I could get a sentence in. Alexis had always been talkative. I'm calling because I wanted to bring Michael something, and I thought I could contact him with their number. Is he moving? He's just leaving for the summer. To Cali. Sounds cool. I set my phone beside me, and Tummy brushed against my leg. I picked her up and set her on my lap. Alexis softly groomed her back. This was exactly how it had been last summer. Alexis and I met outside on the last day of school to relax and talk like we always did. But this school year, we hadn't talked much, and I realized how little we knew about each other now. I think I will go to the park, I said. Maybe get my mind off this. That's great, Alexis smiled. She rose from the bench and helped me up. I'll be right back, I told her, gripping Timmy's leash and rushing back toward the complex. After entering my apartment, I took Timmy off her leash, and she sat down by the television. Mom had instructed me to be back in an hour once I had asked to go to the park. I turned to exit back outside when I realized I was missing Michael's term. I went down the hall toward Miles's room and opened the door without knocking, expecting my brother to scold me. To my surprise, he wasn't there. When I looked at his desk, the charm wasn't there either. Wind against my side, and I turned to see the door wind against my side, and I turned to see the window open. Did he sneak out? Miles used to always sneak out. Not to do something sneaky, but just for the fun of exploring without others knowing. I was surprised he did it again, though, as he hadn't done for years now. Jesse, are you going yet? The hour on the clock is still ticking, Mom said from the living room. Yeah, give me a sec, I responded. I looked through the mess of papers on the desk, forgetting about trying to keep things the way they were. Miles really did take the charm. Alexis was still outside, and it'd be rude to make her wait much longer. As I turned again, I caught a glimpse of a sheet of paper on Miles's bed. A note. I grabbed it and slipped it into my pocket before finally rushing toward the front door. If I was going to give Michael his charm, I had to find out where he was, and that note might have been how to do it. I said a quick goodbye to Mom before slipping into the main hallway and dashing toward the elevator. Alexis was now in the lobby waiting, as it was hot outside. Sorry I kept you for so long, I apologized, jogging to the chair she was in. It's all right, she said, standing up. Let's hurry. I think Kaylani will be there too. It was a good thing I was going. I just really hoped I'd get the courage to tell her about everything going on. After all, not only did I have to find Michael, but now I had to find Miles as well, and nobody I knew was better at finding things or people than Kaylani. Sorry about that, just a temporary pause. Okay. Those swing seats were hot. Tori fanned her backside with her napkin, making the rest of us break into laughter. She knelt down next to me on the grass and set a hot dog in front of her. Don't let the ants get to your food, Alexis told her. Tori rolled her eyes and set it in her lap. First day of summer, Kehlani sighed, almost to herself. First day away from school. I honestly don't know what to do with myself. Same, Lacey agreed. If anything, I just want to study for next year so I can be ahead. Of course you do. Tori shook her head. How about you, Jess? Kehlani nudged my arm. You're quiet. I thought about the note I still had in my pocket, bringing up the note in front of Lacey and Lacey, Alexis, and Tori wouldn't have been smart as they weren't close to Michael. Kehlani and I needed a moment alone. I'm kinda nervous, I admitted. They turned to me to explain. There'll be a ton of new people in high school, and I'm still shook about what happened at school as well. Yeah, it was surreal, Lacey agreed. Not surprised about any of it, said Tori. She leaned back in her forearms. Kids are crazy, and school sucks. We're not crazy, Alexa said. Not us, but most are crazy. I love our neighborhood, but at this point, downtown might be safer. I heard it's a war zone down there, I said, hoping to take part in the conversation. Not that bad, Kaylani said. We all looked at her. I went there for camp last summer. The city is really admirable. The small bits I saw, at least. You must have been on the north side then, said Tori. Everywhere else is as dangerous as Texas. Hey, I'm from there, Alexis said. Exactly, Tori laughed. Alexis swiped Tori's hot dog and bit into the end she hadn't touched. Hey! What? It's good, Alexis defended, her mouth full of the relish that had been topped with. Ew, relish, I cringed, which made Lacey and Kaylani laugh. You don't know real cuisine, Tori scoffed. She snatched back the hot dog. I'm basically done anyways. As she rose from the grass, Alexis stretched out her hand full of trash. Take this with you, she said. You do it yourself, shot Tori. Lacey stood up and waved her trash in her hand. Slow pokes, she teased, racing toward the garbage can across the park. Alexis and Tori took off after her, trying to get there first. I realized that Kehlani and I were alone. Should I tell her about the note? I guess neither of us care for hot dogs, Kehlani smiled. Yeah, I agreed, doing my best to smile as well. Unfortunately, fake smiles don't work on best friends. She turned to face me and leaned forward. Tell me what's wrong. Nothing, I lied. I can tell something's off, she said. No point in telling me there isn't. I glanced to my left and saw the other girls laughing by the trash can. I wondered who had won the race. Alexis won, Kehlani said, reading my mind. Gotta give it to the girl. She's pretty fast, but Lacey was her only competition. Tori's not one for running. Especially with her designer shoes. I made air quotes around the words which had Kehlani laughed. Which had Kehlani laugh. Tori had always been fashion obsessed. Kehlani touched my arm and I turned back to face her. You gonna tell me what's going on? She asked again. I sighed, looking at the other girls, then Kehlani, and back at the other girls again. They were arguing and talking, but they'd be coming back soon. My hand reached into my pocket and pulled out the crumpled paper. I unfolded it and flattened it against my leg before handing it to Kehlani. She looked at it and began to read. Her face grew with concern, something I'd very rarely seen her express. What's wrong? I asked. I leaned over her shoulder to see if I'd missed a clue. Nothing, she said, returning to her calmer self. I felt terrible that she could tell when something was wrong with me, but I couldn't always tell that about her. She had been good at hiding her emotions a lot, which made the fact that she'd been visibly worried just now even more scary. Where'd you get this? She finally asked, carefully handing it back to me. Michael's house, I told her. I went to give Michael his charm, but nobody was there. The windows were locked, but the front door wasn't. Kehlani's eyes lit up as I said that, and she wanted to hear more. There was a moving van outside his house, I continued. I had a suspicious feeling, but they kept driving off, even when I went after them. I called their phone number, and they're apparently out of service. What's the number? I took out my phone and showed her the image of the side of the truck. She zoomed in on the number and read it aloud. That area code doesn't exist, she said matter-of-factly. When she saw me look at her in confusion, she clarified. I studied them at camp, all the ones in the States. It doesn't exist. I wasn't surprised that she'd memorized all the area codes in the country. She'd learned a lot at camp, apparently much more than I thought. But somebody picked up, I recalled. Well, an answering machine. It said the service wasn't working any longer for that specific company, which means that they used that number before. Why would Michael be moving with the company that doesn't even exist anymore? Kalani thought about what I'd said for a few seconds. Might just be an old number, she said. Did you say the area code doesn't exist? I asked. It doesn't. Not here, anyways. Maybe in another country. So why would the company be in this country? Before Kalani could answer, Lacey came racing back, tripping over her own feet. She caught herself before she hit the grass. Don't try so hard, said Alexis, jogging from close behind. We all know I'm the fastest. You're not proving anything. You're so stuck up, Lacey joked. I looked to my left and saw Tori approaching calmly from much further behind. Hey, Tori, Kalani called over her shoulder. Why so slow? Tori smiled and shook her head. I'm retiring. Only 15 minutes for this chapter. That's interesting. Well then, I guess that's it for chapter 2. If you enjoyed, as I said before, follow the podcast and make sure to go and check out iFund Academy for yourself. I will state I am not making any money from this, and if I did, I'd be giving half of the money I make to Emily Ross. If you want to get the book yourself, it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, which are linked in the description. Without further ado, see you guys next time. Goodbye, peeps.